Are we ready, folks? All right. Hey, good morning. My name is Paul Cervantes, and I'm a lieutenant in charge of the Street Violence Bureau, our homicide unit. This morning, I'll be providing you with a pair of updates on two incidents that the homicide unit investigated over the weekend. The first one that I'm going to cover actually is the one that occurred Saturday morning at about 6:50 in the morning. At that time, members of the Southeast Policing District responded to a residence in the 4500 block of East Fillmore for a report of an assault. While en route, the 911 caller provided information that an individual was actually stabbed during this incident. We have determined that 46-year-old Gregory Dela Cruz was a person that suffered multiple stab wounds to his upper body. And when officers arrived, he was unresponsive as they made contact with him inside of his residence. Officers immediately performed life-saving measures and summoned the assistance of EMS. Those folks arrived on scene along with fire, and in relatively short order, unfortunately, they pronounced Mr. Dela Cruz deceased. What we learned from the 911 caller is that an individual inside of the residence potentially is the person who we believe is responsible for this case. That person was provided a description as the assailant as being a Hispanic male in his mid-40s, wearing a black hoodie and blue jeans. We also have some information about some light or thinning hair on top, and then the fact that this individual was about 5'7" with a thin build. The officers that arrived on scene and assisted this investigation started the initial canvass for us, and they provided us with some details that a neighbor had regarding some video. We did locate some video that we are not going to be releasing at this particular time, but the images depicted on this video do in fact suggest that there's a person wearing blue jeans and a black hoodie, possibly with a yellow type logo on the front that we're going to be looking for. Over the weekend and throughout yesterday, my unit was canvassing more on foot, looking for individuals with video to assist us in this investigation. I can tell you that this does not appear to be a random act of violence. This appears to be a situation where there's an individual that was specifically targeted, the reasons for which we particularly don't know at this time. It's important to highlight that or underscore that information because we don't have any information that leads us to believe that anybody in that general neighborhood is in danger at this moment. I'm confident that my detectives that are working this case and that have been doing so around the clock for the last 2 days are going to be successful in not only identifying but ultimately locating and apprehending the suspect in this case. I suspect in the near future that we will possibly coming out to our media partners to assist us in this investigation by providing you with the actual video footage of whom we believe to be a suspect or a person involved in this case. I believe that it's important that we recognize that the media partners play a big role in this type of case as you folks disseminate information to the greater public. And in this case, we're going to be asking the community to assist us by providing us with details on this information. As I mentioned, Mr. Gregory Dela Cruz is 46 years of age. He did have some criminal history, some arrest record with our police department. He was suspected to be involved in a criminal street gang. Whether or not that's a component or a motive to this has yet to be determined. But again, as always, we are looking for the community to assist us by providing us with details. Perhaps some of you folks out there know why this happened or who was possibly involved. If you have that information, please do not hesitate to contact the Fresno Police Department. You can dial 621-7000, or you can always remain anonymous by dialing 498-STOP. And I'll take any questions on this particular investigation if there are any.
Do we know what led up to the stabbing?
Unfortunately, we do not. Mr. Dela Cruz resided at this location with other family members. He woke some of these family members up, advising that he'd been assaulted, and then a phone call was placed to 911. It was only after the phone call was placed to 911 that they determined the gravity or the nature of the assault, which included Mr. Gregory Dela Cruz being stabbed multiple times.
I know the press release said that you think they may have known each other. Has the family said if they essentially know the suspect?
Yeah, no, we believe that there's a connection there. It's not without the realm of, it's within the realm of possibilities that somebody could come in that doesn't have any connection, but that's likely not the case. It's been our experience in these type of cases where no forced entry was made by all actions, or by all accounts thus far, it appears somebody was there of their own accord, perhaps invited into this location, and then something unfolded. There's some details that obviously you folks, I hope you can understand, we cannot share with you, but I can assure you that this is going to be somebody that there's a connection to this residence as well.
Is the family, they fully cooperate?
Absolutely. Yeah, Mr. De La Cruz was there, I said, with other family members, to include his father and also a girlfriend, who are participating in our investigation by providing us with details.
So what's the reason for not releasing the video right now?
The reason is it's an investigative tool that we use. Sometimes when we release video, we do so in a manner that's going to be commensurate with our timeline, not necessarily with you folks. And it has to do with the not being able to compromise the integrity of the case.
What number homicide is this for?
This would be murder number 29 compared to 34 this same time last year.
And when will you be releasing that video?
That has yet to be determined. My folks are out there right now. As I mentioned, we do have more folks that we've contacted in the neighborhood that do have some Ring camera footage. Perhaps that quality will be better than the one that we initially have. I did have the occasion to see the one particular video footage that depicted what we believe to be our suspect. But I believe that there are other videos in that neighborhood. And again, you know, these type of cases, they hinge a lot on video evidence. And so this happened at 6:50 in the morning. It was a foggy morning, but there was, again, a lot of folks in that neighborhood that do have video, Ring camera systems and things of that sort. So if you do reside in and around that neighborhood, please review your videos and look at the timestamp somewhere in around 6:50 in the morning. Sometimes before or sometime thereafter. Specifically at 6:50 is the incident when we got the 911 call. And you know, for those of you that do review that video footage, you know, look for indications of something that's unfamiliar, people on foot, people or unfamiliar vehicles. All of that plays a bigger part into our investigation.
He stressed that, you know, how they can do it safely and, you know, report this crime without, you know, people hearing about it, the anonymity about it. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, you can always remain anonymous by dialing 498-STOP. We do have mechanisms in place that once those calls are made, if in fact you do have video, that it could also be uploaded anonymously. And that comes to our location. We don't have any information about who or where it came from, but again, it provides a better picture for us and allows us to further the investigation.
How heartbreaking it is with Christmas around the corner?
Well, I think the loss of life is always tragic, and quite frankly, the fact that it occurred around the holidays underscores the fact that we need to be very vigilant and do the best we can to solve this crime.
How does fog impact investigations like this, you know, in terms of the amount of video and surveillance video that you guys get?
Yeah, as you can imagine, obviously when we have fog out there, it makes it difficult. Some of the cameras that individuals have in that neighborhood are very good, and the quality is 4K definition. But even if it's 4K definition, if it's dark outside or if there's limited visibility, obviously it's going to hinder our investigation. Okay, I'll move on to the next incident that occurred. And this is going to be an incident that occurred Friday, December the 6th, right about 5:30 in the afternoon. At that time, officers from the Northwest Policing District responded to an apartment complex by the name of the Butterfly Grove Apartments located in the 5200 block of North Fresno Street for a report of a shooting victim. When officers arrived, they located 22-year-old Yesenia Mina, suffering from a single gunshot wound to her upper body. The officers encountered this individual as she was being self-transported via private vehicle, by her boyfriend, 18-year-old Andrew Sanchez. The instructions that were provided to those individuals was to stop their vehicle and wait for police and fire and EMS to arrive on scene, and they did in relatively short order. They immediately provided life-saving measures for Mina, which point in time she was transported to Community Regional Medical Center. Unfortunately, Mina did not survive her injuries, and she was pronounced deceased a short time later. What we learned in this incident is that this is a very tragic and a very much preventable and avoidable incident. Mr. Sanchez is an 18-year-old man who does not have any criminal history, does not have any connections with any type of gang, but for reasons that are of his own opinion or the reasons why he felt it was necessary to carry a firearm. He had one, and that firearm was stored in his residence or their apartment where he resided with Jessica Mina, and it was done so in a negligent manner. He left that firearm in an area that was accessible to a 2-year-old, actually 2.5-year-old toddler at that location. It's important to note that Yesenia Mina did have 2 children. One of them was an 8-month-old infant, and the other one was a 2.5-year-old male toddler. As I mentioned, the firearm was stored in a location where the toddler accessed the firearm, and then at some point in time, while handling that particular weapon, the toddler was able to manipulate the trigger, and it actually struck Mina as she was lying in bed. Once the discharge of that firearm occurred, Andrew and other roommates attempted to assist Mina by giving her life-saving measures. They loaded her into a personal vehicle, as I mentioned, and were in the process of transporting her to the hospital when they made the 911 call and instructions were made to actually remain at the location and wait for police and fire to arrive. Because Andrew had this weapon and stored it in a location that was negligent, he was immediately detained. He was transported to the police department, where he provided a statement indicating to us that he was in fact responsible for placing the weapon in a location where it could be accessed. And because of those actions, the incident resulted in the death of an individual. So Mr. Sanchez was booked that evening for negligent storage of a firearm, including felony child endangerment. Since then, we have learned that Mr. Sanchez has bailed out, and we're continuing to work this investigation forward, collaborating with the district attorney's office to see the appropriate charges that are going to be filed. It is important to note that at this point in time, at this stage in the investigation, it appears to be a tragedy. However, there is still more work to be done, which includes the autopsy of Yesenia Mina and also a forensic analysis of the evidence that we have collected. We did recover the firearm that was used in this case. It was a 9mm Kel-Tec firearm. It's also important to note that this particular type of firearm does not have any type of external safety feature. It is a striker-fired weapon, and although the trigger pull is determined somewhere between 5.5 to 6.5 pounds, it is conceivable, and it has happened in the past, where children have accessed the firearm and had sufficient strength to manipulate the trigger. And all indications at this point indicate that that is in fact what happened. So I can tell you that the Fresno Police Department is deeply saddened by this type of tragedy that's devastating and definitely serves as a stark reminder of the significance and importance of being able to properly store your weapon and do so in a manner that children do not access it. And for children that are watching this or that hear that, if you see a firearm, leave it alone, don't touch it, tell an adult. I'll say that again. If you see a firearm, leave it alone, don't touch it, tell an adult. Unfortunately, in this case, we're talking about a 2.5-year-old child who probably didn't even have enough gumption to understand what was happening. So tragedies such as this, as I mentioned, they cause a ripple effect for the loved ones, and they leave an indelible mark on our community and for the family that's been affected at this point. So, even though the investigation is still ongoing and we have not definitively come to a conclusion, that's the way that the direction is going thus far.
Was it one shot and was she hit in the head?
No, it was not one shot, and she was struck in the upper body. That is a good question, ma'am. The firearm or the provenance of that weapon is still under investigation. It has the weapon itself, when we run it through our system, doesn't come back to any hit. Doesn't say that it's actually, doesn't have any information. Doesn't show who's registered to, whether it's stolen, things of that sort. So we're working with our ATF partners to figure out what we call an e-trace to get a little bit more information on that.
You said other children were in the apartment. Where are they at right now? Are they with Child Protective Services or with their family?
Yeah, they are actually with Mina's parents, and they were actually instrumental in this investigation early on. The children were not present by the time police arrived. Other family members had responded and picked up the children. There's no indication that the children are in any type of danger. However, it is a standard procedure for us to make contact with Child Protective Services and make that referral.
And what,
5:30 in the afternoon, I mean, that's not your normal time to be napping, or?
Yeah, that from what we gather or from what we understand, they were planning to have an evening out, and they were just relaxing on the bed when this happened.
And I can't imagine the psychological impact on a 2.5-year-old who shoots someone and then kills them. What are the next steps for children, you know, for this child?
You know, unfortunately, that's not something that we particularly deal with here at the police department. Our job is to conduct an investigation in this case, and as you can imagine, it's difficult because we are having to wrestle with the idea that it's even conceivable that a 2.5-year-old child would have sufficient strength to manipulate a firearm. I can tell you that the investigation that we conducted, without going into too many details of the statement with Andrew Sanchez, we believe his veracity. We believe that the evidence supports the statement that was made, and you know, we've done a very thorough investigation thus far of the crime scene itself, which included locating the single shell casing, included measurements of the children, the measurement of the bed in relation to the floor, and how if the injuries are going to be consistent when we actually do the autopsy. At this point, it does appear that way, but like I said, with just it's important to say that I want to make sure that this is the way the investigation points thus far. There's no indication otherwise, but I don't want to paint myself into a corner because we have to be open because our job is to be fair, impartial, and objective.
Again, you said there was one shot.
That is correct, one shot.
and where in the house was the gun? Was it in the bedroom with the?
Yeah, we located the firearm. I'm just going to say that. We located the firearm.
It was stored in the bedroom?
The weapon, we believe, was at the time that the toddler accessed the weapon, was stored in the actual bedroom itself. And suffice to say, it was loaded with one in the chamber.
Did the suspect share any children with the victim, or?
No, they did not. They did not have any children in common.
Just so we're clear in the language, so you're still investigating it like a homicide, or are you not investigating it like a homicide, just to be clear?
Oh, to be clear, these type of cases, when we're talking about the death of an individual at the hands of another, does meet and elevate us to the rise of a homicide investigation. Whether or not it qualifies as a murder has yet to be determined, and that's going to do a lot with. You know, we're still not done with this case. There's still some work to be done, which includes looking at the negligent storage of this firearm resulting in the death of another. That particular section is, in fact, covered under the Penal Code. There are sections specifically for that. But is that rise to the level of manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter? We don't know yet. And it's going to be up to us to complete this investigation thoroughly, document it accordingly, and once we're done doing so, then we ship this case over to the district attorney's office where they have the expertise in that area to make that determination and file charges appropriately.
So then this would be the 28th homicide?
No, ma'am. As I mentioned, we had 29 murders year to date. This is not considered a murder at this point. All right. Any other questions? All right. Appreciate it.